Good morning and welcome. I'm Mike Friedman, the 113th president of the National Press Club. We're here today to discuss Austin Tice. Some of you already know Austin's story. It's one that we as journalists need to keep telling because the world needs to know his name. Austin Tice is a journalist who was abducted in Syria in August of 2012 and has been unjustly detained since that time. Austin is a combat veteran Marine, a seventh-generation Texan from Houston, a graduate of Georgetown University, and a Georgetown law student. Like most of us, Austin watched as the refugee crisis unfolded in Syria. Unlike most of us, he was moved to do something about it, packing a camera and heading to Syria in 2012. He was intent on sharing images and words of what was happening. As you leave the National Press Club today, you'll see some of his photographs displayed on the video wall in the front lobby. They are mostly of Syrian children. The National Press Club and other organizations represented here, including McClatchy, the Washington Post, Reporters Without Borders, and the Committee to Protect Journalists, among others, have supported Austin's family, which has engaged tirelessly for more than 7 years to advocate for Austin and to bring him safely home. Last year, we launched a public awareness campaign called Night Out for Austin Tice, organizing events at some 80 restaurants in 13 states and the District of Columbia. Thousands of people learned that evening about Austin for the first time. Millions more read about him in newspaper ads, articles, and op-eds, and heard the Tices tell their story in dozens of radio and television interviews. That effort raised awareness across the country and added some $60,000 to the FBI's $1 million reward fund for information leading to his safe return. We are told this effort led to increased leads to the FBI. It was a success in every respect but one. Austin remains detained. So today, we are announcing a second Night Out for Austin Tice, which will take place on April 29, 2020. We're hoping to have at least one Night Out program in all 50 states this year, and we're exploring additional ways to partner with more businesses to share Austin's story. 3 of Austin's siblings will serve as co-chairs of this year's Night Out campaign: Megan Malone and Naomi Tice of Houston, and Jacob Tice of Tacoma, Washington. The date again is Wednesday, April 29th. More details will be available online at nightoutforaustin.com. No one has done more to help bring Austin home than his parents, Mark and Debra Tice. We're honored to have Austin's mom, Debra, with us today. Debra, Mark, and Austin are all honorary members of the National Press Club. They are family. Debra is here to offer an update on her son's case. Afterward, we'll take questions. Please join me in welcoming Debra Tice.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you all for being here. It's great to be at the National Press Club. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to speak with you about my son, your colleague, Austin Tice. It is exciting to be kicking off another Night Out for Austin Tice. It is truly an effective awareness campaign, so save the date, Wednesday, April 29th. Of course, we all sincerely hope this year it will be a homecoming celebration. It gives me profound joy that all of Austin's sisters and brothers will again be fully engaged in this year's effort, and that Naomi, Jacob, and Megan will be co-chairs. Night Out for Austin Tice is deeply meaningful for our family and hugely significant for Austin. Now I want to give you an update on current efforts. As many of you know, I went to Syria in 2014 and in 2015 to do whatever I could think of to free Austin. In 2012, Austin spent 83 days on the ground reporting from Syria. Coincidentally, in 2014, I spent 83 days in Damascus searching for information about Austin. Not only was I asking on the street, reaching out to the International Red Cross Red Crescent and the Syrian Red Crescent, and meeting with the ambassadors to Syria from the Vatican, the Czech Republic, and others. I was also contacting officials of the Syrian government, asking for meetings to plead for help. I was reaching out every day. I did have some meetings, but others were far more difficult. Finally, after 6 weeks of what I call my mosquito method, reaching out every day, 6 weeks of daily phone calls, I was given a message from a highly placed Syrian official. This is a quote: "I will not meet with the mother. Send a United States government official of appropriate title." Since that day, in March of 2014, almost 6 years ago, when Mark and I shared that message with the United States government, it is the only thing we have been asking on Austin's behalf: a meeting, direct engagement with those best positioned to secure Austin's safe release. We have no capacity for understanding why this request has not been met. Almost 6 years ago, the Syrian government opened the door for a discussion. We believe this is quite possibly the simplest request that could be made in Austin's situation. We've been making this ask on behalf of Austin through all the proper channels of 2 administrations. Obviously, Barack Obama was unsuccessful. We know things are very different with the current administration. President Trump is committed to bringing Americans home and has proven that commitment through action. We know that commitment extends to our son, your colleague, Austin. The president has directed his team to make it happen. We know with certainty there are those in his administration who are working to make this essential meeting happen. Apparently, somewhere in the chain, there is a senior U.S. government official who is hesitating or stalling. There is no possible way for me to understand why anyone would defy the president's will and choose to leave our beloved son, who put his life on the line serving this country 3 tours as a Marine Corps officer. Why would they choose to leave him waiting in captivity instead of taking the necessary steps to get this critical discussion underway? I strongly believe this engagement can happen very soon. President Trump will be giving the State of the Union address next Tuesday, February 4th. It would be great good news for the president to be able to announce the safe release of Austin Tice. I am reasonably hopeful this can happen. With many thanks to the National Press Club and the Press Club Institute, last year was a big year for Austin. In May, the Night Out for Austin, followed in September with the Ask About Austin Tice campaign on Capitol Hill, helped create sustained momentum. Your work makes a difference for Austin. Ask about him. Keep at it. Be relentless. In November, the Georgetown School of Foreign Service created a great deal of positive outreach for Austin when they awarded him one of only 3 Centennial Honors for Service to others. From phone calls and meetings with our government team, I know there has been progress. We must push through whatever is holding us back and meet this reasonable ask. Austin is waiting. We are ready. The time is now. Thank you all again for being here. I will take a few questions.
Okay, I'm just going to ask if you're comfortable when we take your question, if you don't mind introducing yourself to Debra. And I'd like to acknowledge in the room with us the Executive Director of the National Press Club, Bill McCarran, and the Executive Director of the National Press Club Journalism Institute, Julie Moose. So let's begin the questioning.
Debra, Rob Lever from AFP, thank you for coming.
I can't hear you.
Hi, Rob Lever from AFP, thank you for coming. You were talking about the Syrian government, and if I recall correctly, the circumstances of his captivity were unclear for a long time. Do you believe now that it is the Syrian government and not some fringe group or militia group that is holding Austin? And do you have any other circumstances or any additional information that you might have? Share.
That's a great question. And what we know with certainty is that Austin was detained in Syria. And we know with certainty that the Syrian government is best placed to secure his release. In the same way that if someone was missing in the United States, you would ask the United States government for help in finding them and securing their safety and their release.
Nothing further on circumstances.
Nothing further that I can share.
Debra, why do you believe that someone in the Trump administration is preventing these discussions, and will you identify him or her? And if not, why not? If you're dropping out here in public that someone, a senior administration official, is preventing a meeting from happening, why not call him or her out? Who is it?
To your last question about calling out, I can't be certain about who it is. Whoever it is knows who they are, and that's the best calling out that I can do. Whoever you are, stand down or stand up for Austin, one or the other. We've been through this before with the previous administration where we were making progress and we got very close, and it was only after they were gone that we realized it had been a senior official that had been the obstacle. So I think the most important thing to focus on is the president has the will. He's called for action for Austin. Let's go. Or as we now say, as brave Americans, let's roll.
Steve Bannon with Stars and Stripes. When was your last conversation with anybody from the Trump administration? How often has those communications happened over the last couple of years, and what have those looked like?
Morning, noon, and night.
Other questions in the back?
Ms. Tice, I'm James Meek with ABC News. Just a quick.
I can't hear you.
I'm James Meek with ABC News.
Okay.
Thank you for being here today. The message that you got from the senior Syrian official, what was the date of that message? I was unclear whether it was 2014 or 2015. You were
That
in
was
Syria?
2014, and it was in March. And we kept pretty good notes about my time in Syria, and it was around March 27th.
I'm sorry, were you in
2014.
Damascus, remind me?
Say it again.
Where were you in Syria at that time?
Damascus. The whole time I was in Syria, I was in Damascus.
Thank you.
In the back.
So James, that's almost 6 years ago. Next month it'll be 6 years that we've had an open door, that the parents have been saying, what about that open door? What about that open door? What about that open door? And hearing, well, it's appalling.
Hi, Mrs. Tice. Thank you so much for doing this today. Allie Rogan with the PBS NewsHour. Allie Rogan with the PBS NewsHour. I wanted to know, do you believe that it is the same person who, under both the Trump and the Obama administrations, have been holding up this request? And can you characterize at all where those conversations, when the Obama administration came to a close, where were they? How close were you?
Those are great questions. You're a good journalist. I can't answer all of your questions. We feel that we were very close. We know it was a senior official, and we're concerned that that's the situation we have now. I'd love to say more, believe me, I would love to say more. But I think having a wall between me knowing is probably a safety measure.
Are you suggesting that someone from the White House or the administration told you that this is being blocked? Are you suggesting
I
that
can't
someone from
answer
the White
that.
House told you this is being blocked?
No. I can't answer that.
Any other questions?
Jessica Donati with the Wall Street Journal. I was wondering if you could talk about the last indications you have that Austin is still alive.
First of all, let me just ask a favor of all of you. I'm sure that you have parents, or I'm sure all of you have parents, and some of you have children, and others of you have pets. And I don't think you would like for someone to come up to you and say, hey, is Fido still alive? There's just a ring to that that's a bit grating. Austin is alive, and we know that Austin is alive. We have credible confirmation that Austin Tice is alive.
Any other questions? Okay. Debra, thank you
Thank you, Mike.
for joining us today. Thank all of you for coming out. We appreciate your time. We appreciate any and all that you can do to sustain the momentum to bring Austin Tice home on behalf of all the organizations that are working on his behalf. And we look forward to the second night out for Austin Tice on April 29th. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you all.